Just a few weeks ago, Nvidia made it clear that they're not just leading the charge when it comes to artificial intelligence. They're trying to own the entire AI market altogether, the hardware, the software, and everything in between. And they just might pull it off and add another $1 trillion to their market cap. Don't believe me? Let me show you just how big of a chokehold Nvidia is about to have on the entire AI market, and which companies they could kill in the process. Hang on to your chips, because we're about to cover a lot of ground. Your time is valuable, so let's get right into it. It's been an insane few weeks for AI announcements and innovations. Here's a quick recap of everything that happened in the last month alone. Google held their annual I/O conference where they announced their own set of large language models, new AI features across almost all of their apps, and new capabilities for Google Bard. Microsoft held their annual Build conference for developers, where they announced tons of new ChatGPT integrations, AI copilots for their entire software ecosystem, and tons of new tools for developers to build and deploy their own copilots and AI applications. And AMD just held their own data center and AI technology premiere, where they showcased hardware and software solutions for this massive wave of AI innovation. And of course, we should also check in with Intel. Good job, Intel. All kidding aside, the AMD presentation made it crystal clear just how far ahead Nvidia is, and I'll explain exactly why that's a big problem in a minute. I made supercuts for each of these events, and I did my best to highlight the most important parts in as little time as possible. So if you haven't checked them out yet, I put them all in one convenient playlist for you, which I'll also leave in the description. They have over 3 million combined views so far, so I won't rehash them here. But if you did watch them, then you know that there's one presentation that completely blew the rest out of the water, and that's Nvidia's keynote at Computex in Taipei. Nvidia's CEO Jensen Huang revealed product after product and service after service set to dominate the entire AI stack. He showed that if data centers switch from Intel and AMD's CPUs to Nvidia's GPUs, they can do 44 times more work while using less than 1/3 the power.
The GPU server is no longer the computer. The computer is the data center. Your goal is to build the most cost-effective data center, not build the most cost-effective server. Back in the old days when the computer was the server, that would be a reasonable thing to do. But today, the computer is the data center. So for $10 million, you buy 48 GPU servers. It only consumes 3.2 gigawatt hours and 44 times the performance. Let me just show it to you one more time. This is before, and this is after, and this is...
Said a different way, if a data center switches to Nvidia's new DGX H100 GPU systems, they could do around 150 times the work with the same amount of power, or power the same sized large language model for just around 4% of the cost. And that's just the beginning. Jensen also showed off the Grace Hopper Superchip, which lets Nvidia compete directly with AMD and Intel for more CPU-heavy data center workloads. Then he showed off new networking technologies like their NVLink and InfiniBand to connect hundreds of these superchips to effectively create one supercomputer-sized GPU. And he also showed off tons of software that Nvidia's built on top of all this hardware, and how it can already power massive large language models and AI avatars for a wide variety of applications, everything from retail and customer service to manufacturing and robotics, and even video games and movies are going to benefit from this tech stack. And here's what AMD showed off just 2 weeks later.
So let's watch, for the first time ever, MI300X running Falcon on a single GPU accelerator. We have to give the model a prompt, so we are here in San Francisco. Let's say, write a poem about San Francisco. Here we go, the poem's coming. You can see it's responding in real time. I'm not a great poet, I don't know about you guys. I would say that poem's pretty good, huh?
Believe it or not, the poem thing was actually a lot more impressive than it looked. What AMD was actually showing off there was that they could run an entire 40 billion parameter model on one single AMD Instinct GPU. The problem here is there's nothing really stopping that same model from working on the equivalent Nvidia GPU either. But the bigger problem is just how obviously rushed AMD's presentation was. How little time they spent covering new chip designs or software solutions for AI development at all, and how much of their talk focused on the dangers of one vendor controlling the entire AI ecosystem. That vendor is, of course, Nvidia. By the way, if you want a great app for stock market research and investing, check this out. Here's Nvidia's company page. It's full of useful info like what industries and markets they compete in, analyst ratings, and even their top shareholders. And if I click financials, I can see Nvidia's latest earnings, their revenue breakdown, analyst expectations, and plots tracking every important indicator I can think of, all in one convenient place. This is why I think Moomoo is a great app for more advanced investors. And right now, they're giving away up to 15 free stocks, each valued at up to $2,000, plus a $100 cash bonus and a free share of C3 AI when you use my link to sign up, and a share of Tesla or Google when you deposit at least $5,000. If you're trying to invest in AI, all these free stocks are a no-brainer. All you need to do is download the app using my link, keep your account funded at that level for at least 60 days, and enjoy up to 17 free stocks. But this offer ends soon, so make sure to get started today. All right, AMD's presentation had about 50 times fewer views than Nvidia's, which means a lot of things are going unnoticed. Because AMD's presentation was so rushed, they ended up revealing just how far behind Nvidia they really are. Let me quickly show you a few of their biggest slip-ups.
Early on in our partnership, we had concerns about
We were new.
About AMD's ability to scale alongside us and meet our demand.
And it's especially exciting for me, not only because now we've really put all the focus of the company under one roof, the data center GPU team, and our newly formed AI group.
When we try to size it, we think about the data center AI accelerator TAM growing from something like $30 billion this year, over 50% compound annual growth rate, to over $150 billion in 2027. And it may be higher, it may be lower. But what I can say for sure is it's going to be a lot.
So Meta Platforms had concerns about their partnership with AMD and their ability to scale. AMD admitted that their AI team is brand new, and Lisa Su seems not to really be sure how big the market for AI accelerators is even going to be in the first place. And that's just the stuff that actually made it into the presentation. By the way, I'm not showing you these clips to hate on AMD. I'm a longtime shareholder and a longtime fan of their CPUs. What I'm trying to show you is just how far ahead Nvidia is over their only real competitor for GPUs and accelerators. Unless, of course, you count Intel. Intel's chips do tend to run a little hot. And on top of that, Nvidia is already in a massive position of power, having held around 80% of the market share of GPUs over the last 3 years, with AMD taking the other roughly 20%. So here's exactly what I'm worried about. Nvidia could end up with a real monopoly on the entire AI market. If developers want to use CUDA or the over 4,000 AI and software libraries built on top of it, they'll need to be on Nvidia's hardware. And if different vendors want to run Nvidia's hardware, they'll be locked into their software stack as well. And yes, I am a big fan of Nvidia's entire tech stack, and their stock is one of my biggest holdings. But nobody should want a company to have a monopoly on what could be one of the most impactful technologies we've ever seen. But don't just take it from me. Here's a quick clip from a recent episode of the All In podcast, where 3 incredibly sharp tech investors share exactly what they're waiting for before they see Nvidia as having a total monopoly.
I think what's really interesting here is this is a really important moment where that design, that Grace Hopper design, which is basically a massive system on chip, it's an entire rig. It's a GPU and CPU and memory and interconnects. This is like them going for the jugular. And this is what's crazy in a moment like this. That is basically them trying to create an absolute monopoly. Because if you have these rigs, and these rigs are the most capable for learning, and you have their SDK CUDA, which is becoming the de facto software layer now that you use to write to their H100s or Grace Hopper when it's available, and the A100s, that could create a level of lock-in that I think people should be thinking about. So if you're the hyperscalers like Amazon and Google and Microsoft, what is your reaction to this? If you're Facebook, what is your reaction to this? And I think it's really important because if these guys continue to innovate at this scale, you're not going to have any alternatives. So if NVIDIA continues to drive this quickly and continues to execute like this, it's a one and done, one company monopoly in AI at the hardware layer. And I think that they are ready to go for the jugular here in what looks like the most important market that's emerged in
What do you
last
think about
decade.
the valuation, Chamath, trading at 200 times or 50 times EBITDA?
I'm in your camp. There's this principle in capitalism, which is in order to grow like that, you're generating so much profit that competitors look at it and say, hold on, you don't deserve that much profit. I'm going to take some of that.
Your profit's my opportunity. Your margin's my opportunity.
I think that your margin is my opportunity is exactly what happens. So I think what I'm waiting for, Friedberg, is in the next 2 quarters, if AMD, Facebook, Google,
Intel,
Microsoft, and Amazon don't announce something substantive, there's a very good chance that NVIDIA runs away with this. And I think that that's very problematic. But in that case, that price is cheap. My bet, though, is that I don't think that that's going to happen because it's just too important. So my bet is in the next 2 quarters, you start to see some real action so that folks start to have to balance their forecasts where it's not just 100% NVIDIA, but it's NVIDIA plus, plus, plus. It would be pretty derelict of these hyperscalers to just throw their hands in the air and just give the whole market to them. And it would be derelict of AMD. AMD is a great memory solution, but they really don't have a deterministic AI chip. And I think that Lisa Su needs to act decisively here and build something, announce something, buy something, but she needs to be really aggressive here.
So in my opinion, Lisa Su didn't really have the answer they were hoping for. That means it's up to Facebook or Google or Microsoft or Amazon to come out with products that chip away at Nvidia's massive ecosystem, at least for specific kinds of workloads. By the way, it's not just Nvidia's DGX H100 GPU systems, or their Grace Hopper superchip, or even their insane networking technologies that these hyperscalers need to compete with. The announcement that I think everybody is sleeping on is Nvidia's modular MGX server platform. This one design allows for many different configurations of Nvidia's GPUs, CPUs, and DPUs to go after many different data center verticals like cloud services and gaming, high-performance computing and data analytics, digital twins for manufacturing and robotics, telecommunications, and of course AI training and inference. And because Nvidia will support multiple generations of hardware in these same form factors, they'll be locking in these data centers for years and years because the cost to switch away from this ecosystem would be too high. That would make Nvidia incredibly sticky and entrenched as the market leader. And finally, could all these things really add another $1 trillion to Nvidia's market cap? Well, with how big the AI and accelerator markets are becoming, it's really not out of the question. I'm not saying it'll happen anytime soon, but in my opinion, they're clearly already on that path. Nvidia really is going for the jugular here, especially when it comes to companies like AMD and Intel. And we're about to see which other companies are willing to stick their necks out to compete and which ones will end up burying their heads in the sand. But there's one more huge disruption that you need to know about, so make sure to check out this episode next. And if you feel I've earned it, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. That lets me know to put out more research like this. Either way, thanks for watching, and until next time, this is ticker symbol U. My name is Alex, reminding you that the best investment you can make is in you.